everybody. Thanks for joining us on KCBC. Hey, as of the time of this recording, we were just able to monetize. I appreciate everyone who has subscribed on a monthly basis. Again, you are helping keeping this podcast go. We are trying to bring cameras to this podcast within the time frame of 2024, so thank you for your continued support. I have some very special guests here today. I have Zach and Meagan Nelson from Vita Chiropractic. They are here because they are my favorite chiropractic office in the Kansas City region. They do all kinds of awesome things to help people get better and enhance their wellness in their own life. Zach and Meagan, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
So glad to have you here. I know we had scheduled around Christmas time, and then we pushed it to another day, and then we had that rash of snow days. Mm-hmm. So it's really cool to have you here. I'm really excited.
That's just how life is as a business owner sometimes, right?
That's right. Yeah. Absolutely. So I guess to start off, maybe you could both kind of introduce yourselves and what you do for Vita, and then we'll go from there. We'll talk origin, how you help people get better, business networking tips, all that stuff.
Sure.
Do you want to start?
I'll go first. Yeah.
Awesome.
Dr. Zach Nelson. I'm the co-owner and founder of Vita Chiropractic and the clinic director. So primarily I just oversee the operations, the patient care, making sure that the experience is reproducible and that people are getting better and that we're delivering.
Awesome.
Oh gosh. I'm Meagan Nelson and I am also a co-owner, but I guess I just kind of do all the other in between things. Mm-hmm. So paperwork, filing stuff, looking things up, just helping with patients at the front, not necessarily patient care, but just the in and out of patients and helping them out in that aspect.
Yeah, I've seen you as, ops manager, patient experience, and I know you train when you have new hires as well. You get them oriented. You do training as well, Zach. Mm-hmm. So very, very excited to have you here. Mm-hmm. Vita, I was surprised to know when I walked into your clinic, which is an awesome inviting space, of course, but you guys have your own supplements that you offer. Maybe you can talk about what you offer the community here in Kansas City, full spectrum wellness, supplements, all those things. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So as a chiropractic office, I feel the services that we provide is we don't necessarily fix bad backs or bad necks, but ultimately we know that people that come to us are coming to us not necessarily because of that, but they're coming to us because of the effect that condition is having on them. Maybe they can't pick up their grandkids anymore. They can't swing the golf club the way that they used to, or they're just kind of accepting this new sense of this discomfort and this reality that, getting older means that you're getting unhealthier. And we literally have the paradigm shift with people to change the way that they see in the status quo of health and healthcare and how they approach their day-to-day life. So the products and services that we offer is most importantly is the chiropractic adjustment to get their spine healthy, make their nervous system function more optimally so that they can have the best possible life experience with a healthy spine, better functioning nervous system, so that they can have the best life experience and deliver on their bigger purpose.
That's amazing. I love it. Anything that you would add to that, Meagan?
Oh man, I think probably just on top of just obviously people are there for chiropractic because they want to get better. They want to start getting back to the things that they want to do, but also just trying to provide a good experience for people. So there's tons of chiropractors out there. Obviously, we're there to provide the best experience possible for people, not only total healing, so emotional, but also, the physical through the chiropractic adjustments.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I've realized about you, because, I've been to chiropractors before myself. And when I hear the testimonials that you have coming out of your office, I think people often, they don't understand how, if you've got, nerves pinched in your spine and your neck, you guys are able to, take a honest look at somebody's health and figure out where things are stemming. So can you kind of give some examples of how you're, like you said, we're not just there to fix bad backs. I know you said fix is an F word in your clinic before when we had our one-to-one last week. And I was like, that blew my mind. I was like, yes. And you're like, don't say that in my clinic. Or, if people do, you have a way to kindly redirect them. Yeah. But
can I touch on that?
Yeah,
we call that for a new patient that comes in, we call that the bad F word in our clinic, and it's fix. The reason we say that that's the bad F word is when a new patient comes in and they say, can you fix it? It's almost putting a sense of responsibility on the practitioner to fix that problem. It's almost like they are the victim and the hero needs to be the provider. And ultimately, when new patients come in, I think what sets us apart is we want everybody to know that they are the hero of their own story. They can correct the condition. They can correct the issues. We're just there to help guide them and give them the wellness consulting to get back on track so that they can live and lead a happier, healthier lifestyle. So we say that fix isn't really a word we use in our office, but it's all about progressively getting better and better, 1% improvements every day. So that's what the bad F word is in our clinic.
Yeah. So what are some other things that you've seen? Like you have people come into the clinic, and I don't want to insert the testimonials I've already heard, but I want to hear it from you. And I think people want to hear, maybe some examples of, folks who maybe they didn't know where else to go. I mean, they were at the last rope, or they had gotten advice up to this point and it wasn't fixing the problem. Can you talk about some of those things? Yeah. I
can think of one specifically who his initial concern for coming in was he wanted to be a better drummer. He was already doing all of those things, but just wanted to do it better without all of the repercussions of it later. So he had been under care for,
and we're talking full kit drummer, or
like drum in a band, in a band, like in an active band who, nice. Performed several times a week even. So his goal was obviously to feel better and then recover faster. But also throughout care, he noticed he actually was able to get off of his high blood pressure medication. So something that he wasn't seeking us out for, but by allowing his body to heal naturally through chiropractic care, that was just a great side effect, basically.
Side benefit. Mm-hmm.
How? What's the connection there? How can somebody's blood pressure improve by coming in to see the chiropractor? See, that is what I'm talking about here. I hear those things and it defies common conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
How?
Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So
how does that happen?
Life itself can just be very stressful, and it can be very demanding on our bodies. So our autonomic nervous system, it has two major functions. It's the fight or flight response, and it's the rest and digest response. So think of it kind of like the gas pedal versus a brake pedal. Many times when people come in to see us, they have had a condition in their spine. It's called a subluxation or an intersegmental joint dysfunction that creates tension, inflammation, irritation, spasms, trigger points, and then ultimately it puts pressure and irritation on the nerves. This gears their body to be more sympathetic dominant or more gas pedal physiology dominant. So this will create potentially higher blood pressure. It can create some issues with digestion. So in a sense, what we work on is we get the spine adjusted, we give them some advice and some nutrition tips and some wellness tips so that they can get their body out of a fight or flight dominant state and into a restful physiological state. So let me be very clear here. We don't aim to treat, cure, or bad F word fix these types of problems, but we see that when people start functioning a lot better and their wellness is improving, they are therefore seeing these side benefits, or in other words, a lot of other doctors call these miracles. How did this happen? It's chiropractic and it's wellness. It's a ludogenic approach.
Have you had any surprises where somebody got well from something because of the work that you were doing with them, and you were like, wow, that's a first for me?
I don't know if it's necessarily a surprise, but just...
Nothing really surprises me anymore. Really, our body is we have incredible God-given healing potential that sometimes we forget that we have. And if we can just help express that innate intelligence, that life's expression, we see that the body can do some remarkable things. We've seen personalities change before our eyes. We've seen skin tone coloration come back. We've seen people look vibrant. They look happier and healthier. We've literally seen people that when they go to PCPs, they're getting off of antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, and they're getting their cholesterol levels back to a normal state.
PCP is primary care physician.
Yeah.
Got it.
So let me be very clear. We are not anti-medicine. We are not anti-pharma, but we do know that if we can get the body to heal more effectively from, we call it ADIO, above, down, inside out. We know that all healing processes start in your brain. They travel down your spinal cord, and then they travel from the nerve roots of your spinal cord out to the end organ or the tissue. So plain and simple, what we work on as a neurologically-based chiropractic office is we know that your brain is responsible for even the smallest chemical reaction in your body. And if there's irritation in that communication and that coordinated effort, that can lead to dysfunctions, and over time that can contribute to symptoms. So we have a paradigm shift to help individuals with their bodies healing ADIO as opposed to outside in reactive measures or symptom focused measures. So we're all about wellness.
Above, down, inside,
ADIO.
out.
Mm-hmm. Very important.
So cool to think about it like that. I know a little bit about your history, and I know you guys have shared that online, but how did you get into neurologically based chiropractic care?
It's a good question. I had been a chiropractic patient myself. So I played college basketball, and I originally noticed that I had sciatica that was starting when I was a junior in high school. And
what's sciatica again?
Sciatica is irritation on a nerve root in your low back that then travels down the buttock and down the leg. So it's usually a burning nerve-related pain that stems from your low back. Usually it's because of a disc herniation. So there was pressure on my low back, and I was doing ibuprofen, I was doing muscle relaxants, I was doing stretching and icing, and I was doing all these outside-in things. But until I saw a chiropractor, that was the first time that I had actually been shown where my problem was really stemming from. And I tell you what, I had this light bulb where I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been going about this the wrong way the entire time. So the pain would come and go for years. And finally it got to the point where I couldn't even really move because my sciatica was, anytime I would stand up to do a workout, it would just shoot down my leg. So chiropractor, that's ultimately how I got into the approach. So I would go to the chiropractor when I hurt, and I would only go when I hurt. And we talk about that as well, that the ebb and flow in our office. But I found that my condition was worsening to a point where I could have potentially trending towards a surgery. So when I started to learn about the neurological approach, that the nervous system and the spine, they have an extremely intimate relationship, and the nervous system is what drives the healing, not necessarily crunching bones or twisting bones with a mechanistic model. We need to help take pressure off the nervous system. So here's a quote. It's all about the tone. It's not just about the bone. We need to take pressure off of the tone of the nervous system by adjusting segments of the spine, the bones. So
that, and obviously, like through the chiropractic care that you received, you got better, went on to get, your doctor. I'm sorry. Doctorate.
That's okay.
Words are so hard on Friday mornings sometimes.
Yeah.
And you both met while you were going to college together, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So you were married before you started the business. You started the business in 2020. So a quick snapshot of what that was like, what month and what it looked like.
Yeah, so it was a nerve-wracking time. We had to go through a lot with inspections just to even get open, delays just because of everything that was going on with we had to get cleaning supplies from his parents 2 hours away because everything was sold out here, so we could even have toilet paper for our bathroom for when people were coming in.
Couldn't even find toilet paper our first week.
So that was stressful.
Wild, right?
Something I didn't think that we'd have to worry about, but we got delayed. We initially tried to open in like late February or March. We got pushed back, and then we eventually were able to open in April during the stay-at-home order, which we were still luckily, an important business. So they allowed us to still, essential business. That's the word.
Yeah.
So we were still an essential business. We were still able to get open, but we found that there were so many people who were forced to work from home, and so many of those people were sitting not
on their couch.
not in a very ergonomic position. So sitting on a couch with their laptop hunched over, and people were glad that we opened and were able to help them when so many other places were closed. So just being able to be there to help those people have an outlet. And then sometimes we're the only people that people were able to see. So being able to be that light for the people who didn't have anybody or weren't able to see anybody, that was a good thing that we were able to be open during that time.
And you started, now, Zach, you were the sole chiropractor when you began, right?
Yep.
What's your journey been like adding people to the team? You've had some exciting things happening.
Yeah. So when we first opened, April of 2020, it was really scary because at that point in time, we had basically completely depleted our accounts to stay open for operating expenses, to the point where we had just a few $1,000s in our account, our business account, to where we didn't even have enough for payroll that was supposed to run the following week. So since then, we found that we had expectations for what business would be like when we opened, and then there was reality. But we feel like it was God's way of giving us a test of grit and resilience to know that if we can open up during that time where there was literally nobody else in our shopping center open except for us, that we can do anything. So we feel like that was, we learned how to use that as a blessing. So since then, we found that we needed to be very intentional with every person that comes in. We find every way to celebrate if we can when they come in. We send congratulations cards, graduation cards, happy anniversary, whatever we can do. And since then, we've taken on more clients, and as a result, you have to scale. So the reason that scaling is important, if you're a business owner and you're listening to this right now, the reason that scaling is important is surely you understand that your product and service brings value to somebody's life, whether it makes their life easier, it makes them more money, it gives them more time or energy, or it makes them healthier. You're bringing value to them. So you have to scale so that more people can get your service and you can serve more people. And that's what we've been focusing on, is bringing more people on the team, training, scaling. And that's why it's important to us that we are scaling.
Yeah. Zach, you and I have talked a lot about operations stuff and tactics that you've used. Meagan, what have you found as you guys have been growing? What's important for you on the things that you're managing, like lessons you've learned as you've expanded?
Oh man, that's a tough one. I would say probably just learning how to obviously operate your own business, but also how to manage team. So just trying to be an effective leader while you're also learning is something.
Do you have any formal business training, either of you, like entrepreneurial?
No.
You've learned this on the go.
No, neither of us had any training. No.
See, I love it because you guys are growing and you've figured out how to, like that statement, I can't remember who it is. It might be Maria Forleo, but everything is figure outable.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, like
yep.
we'll figure it out. What are some of the strengths of people that you've added to the team, and how has that helped? Like, and maybe some things you've learned of evaluating your weaknesses and where you use your strengths, and maybe you can talk about that dynamic a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe touch
I feel once we took a look at what our core values are, we then are able to see, okay, does this person have empathy? Because that's extremely important being in healthcare. Can you understand where this person's coming from, and can you feel their pain and have that? So empathy is
one of your core values.
It's a big one. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Empathy, as well as faith is a big one. Having just crazy amounts of faith to know that, I mean, obviously being a business owner, you have to have crazy amounts of faith. So we are driven by faith in the office as well. But empathy, and then intentionality is a really, really important one. Just being extremely intentional with that person in that moment, whether it's an adjustment, whether it's a phone call, whether it's a new patient walking in for the first time, just being unbelievably intentional with them. And all the time we're asked, what sets you guys apart? And I think it's just our level of intentionality that we bring.
Can you give me an example of that? Like, how, if I was an employee at Vita and my core value was intentionality, how would that play out? Like with a patient, when you say you have to be very intentional with that person, like what does that look like?
We say this all the time, that it's like the Disney experiences that we want.
What's the Disney experience?
The Disney experience is, so for example, if you go on a Disney cruise, you probably fill out some sort of application where they ask you who's coming and what their favorite character is. And then now they know that you're going to go to dinner at 5 p.m. So then coincidentally, your kid's favorite character is going to be in the hallway at 5 p.m. as you're leaving your room for. So it's just an unbelievable amount of intentionality that Disney brings to try and make sure that your kid crosses paths. And I'm going to put air quotations here, accidentally, but that's absolutely calculated. So an example that we have is, we know that when mothers come to our office, we take care of tons of prenatal in our office to help them out with their pains. But when a mother is giving birth, we know approximately when the due date is. So what we do, and I don't want to share too many, but we literally go on Facebook and we look to see what the baby's name is. So then we write them a card for them, the baby, and then also the significant other. And we include those names to say, congratulations on your new family member. Just that level of intentionality to look up what the kid's name is. Did everything come out okay? That's the level of intentionality that we're looking for. If somebody walks in and says, getting ready for my anniversary dinner tonight, you better be writing a card for them saying happy anniversary and trying to find out what year it is so that we can say happy 40th anniversary to you.
They just told you what you can do for them. Mm-hmm. They gave you a piece of information. Mm-hmm. Gosh, I love that. And I love to, I mean, I've seen you do this too outside of the clinic, like in our group. So we're in a business networking group together. And, you know, right now you've taken a step out, Meagan. Zach's filling in the seat for Vita, but both of you bring like wisdom, things that you're working on, things that you learned, systems you can try. You were talking about like an AI program. What are some things that you've learned in I guess at the start of the year that would be helpful for business owners? We'll start with business owners and then maybe for like patients that are seeking care, just lessons you've learned.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, business owners. I would say just having people in your corner too for business owners, making sure that you surround yourself with people who are positive.
Good.
Because if you're around other business owners who may be struggling or maybe having a hard time, that's what's going to feed into you. And if you're letting somebody feed that into you and your, you know, everyday life, then that's going to be something that's hard for you to overcome if you don't have somebody who's constantly there cheering you on too.
Right.
Yep. It's all about being around the tribe of people that it's really the people that you surround yourself with. You know, the quote is something like you're an average of the top 5 people you spend the most time with or whatever. But the way I see it is it's withdrawals and deposits. If you're around people that are always going to take withdrawals of your energy, your focus, or your mental state, and they're always taking withdrawals from you and not depositing back into you while you're depositing into so many other people's, you got to be around people that are going to make you better and let you live the life that you want by being around the people that you need to be around.
Yeah, we've talked about that in previous conversations as well. I think you had put it as energy is currency.
Yes.
And if your energy is falling short,
yep,
the energy in the business is going to fall short.
Absolutely.
And guess what? The customers are going to feel that too.
Absolutely.
Let me ask you, what do you do when you're down? When you don't feel like your energy's up? Like, what are some things that you do to get yourself there or get through that?
Exercise and morning routine.
Morning routine.
It's wild. If you're a business owner right now and you're frustrated with your business, or you have anxiety, or you're not pleased with where your business is going, I would implore you, diagnose your morning routine. Everything that happens before you punch in or go to your job site or your office. Figure out your morning routine. Start simple. Figure out 3 things that are simple for you. You better move your body. You better get your mind right, and you better express some level of gratitude. As would be my advice in the morning. If I don't have my routine in place, it's weird. My business it translates to my business because maybe my energy's off, and then now everybody's energy's off, and then now the clients are. You know what I mean? So I would say look at your morning routine.
Yeah. What do you do when you're not feeling it or you got to get yourself there?
I like to just get outside. Getting outside, getting fresh air. If it's not that great out, just open the windows, let some fresh air in, take some time to yourself. Devotionals are great. Just sitting down, trying to take the time for yourself. And I know it's hard having kids too. We have a toddler, so just trying to even just have one of us, take them for a little bit, and then just having a little bit of intentional time by yourself. Even if you get up 30 minutes early just to sit down and have quiet time by yourself, then just make sure that happens for you. Mm-hmm. Makes a world of a difference. Yeah.
So, another part of this, and this is the second part of my initial question, it's called the Kansas City Business Cast because we're talking to people in Kansas City, but the things we discuss are applicable on a national level, globally, worldwide. I wish every city had a Vita Chiropractic. Maybe one day you guys will franchise, right? Maybe something you'll have expansion. But for people who are, seeking this type of wellness care, in other places that are outside of Kansas City, what do you think are some important things for people to understand? Like when they're kind of going through, like maybe there's people out there that they've been getting the nagging feeling like they need to go to a chiropractor and they just happen to be listening to this. Mm-hmm. What should we look out for when we're, trying to find a chiropractic office? Yeah.
I think it's important to note that if you're having the pain that quote unquote comes and goes, or it's here and there, I can tell you that from my experience and what I've seen, those types of concerns really only get worse. So I think that the best time to plant a tree, if you're considering chiropractic care, would have been 20 years ago. But the second best time to plant a tree and get started would be right now. So I'd implore you to look up a chiropractor. I would implore that it's neurologically focused chiropractic care so that your nervous system can function optimally. But to be very honest, I think all chiropractic works. I think it all works to a certain degree, but just sometimes there's an extra level of intentionality that can take place that can get people the results that they're really looking for.
How rare or how recent is this term neurologically based chiropractic care? Because I got to tell you, I've known about chiropractors my whole life. Okay. Literally since I was a teenager. Okay. So we're talking 3 decades or so.
Yeah.
You are the first folks I've met who say we are a neurologically based chiropractic office. Am I an oddball in never hearing that since I met you? Is that a recent development in chiropractic?
You want to know how recent it is? September 18th, 1895. That's how recent. No, that's the date of the first ever chiropractic adjustment that took place. So D.D. Palmer, he's the founder of chiropractic. He came across an individual. His name was Harvey Lillard. He was actually a custodian or a janitor for one of his office buildings. And Harvey had actually injured himself in his upper back. And D.D. Was very fond of the nervous system and how the nervous system coordinated functions and the relationship that it held with spinal bones. So D.D. examined Harvey on a physical table like you and I are at right now, which is why today it's called the chiropractic adjusting table. He examined him and he found that he had a bone in his upper back that was shifted so far that it was like a gross, you could see it. So he took his hand and he very intentionally put a pressure on that bone in a very sudden force and realigned that segment. So this is where the neurologically focused part comes in. Is this scared the dickens out of Harvey because his back popped and, that wasn't really something that they were accustomed to. But a few days later, Harvey comes back to him and he says, I can hear the wagons in the street and I can hear the clamoring of the markets in the street. And what you didn't know was Harvey was actually hard of hearing and deaf. So from that segment that he had adjusted, D.D. thought that he had found the cure for deafness by pushing on the spinal bone. And he wasn't quite right there, but what he was right was that the nervous system and the spine held a very intimate relationship. So that was back in 1895. Now, as you can imagine, it's met with a lot of resistance from the medical community.
Keep going. This is so good to hear this.
As you can imagine. So, we're just very, very big on the philosophy of chiropractic. And so, as you can imagine, that was met with a lot of resistance. Pseudoscientific, quackery, Did
witchcraft ever
not
get
real
thrown in
doctors,
there?
Not real doctors.
Snake oil.
I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. Oh, you're not a real doctor. Well,
today,
I don't take
in
offense
2024.
to that because here's why. The original pioneers of chiropractic actually used to get thrown in jail for doing chiropractic service for individuals in the community.
So why? That
was considered practicing medicine without a license, because if you were to adjust somebody and if they were to get better for certain conditions, that was considered treating a condition, which is also why you don't hear us use the term treatment too often in our office. But they would actually get thrown in jail. So there's a gentleman named Herb Reaver. You guys can look him up. He was the most jailed chiropractor. Trying to remember how many times he was thrown in jail, but it was more than a dozen, if I'm not mistaken. But that's actually what our pioneers went through. So I can take it every now and then if people say I'm pseudoscientific or if I'm a fake doctor or I'm not a real doctor, because I see people get better. I see people get off pills. I see them avoid surgeries. I see them get their lives back through chiropractic care. And it's really, really cool to see that. So I can take it.
Yeah. So the neurologically based thing that I heard for the first time, chiropractic has always been neurologically based.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's why you should try to find somebody who is neurologically focused instead of maybe just pain based.
We focus more on the function. Let's call it that. That's what it is. We focus more on the function of how your body is optimizing its wellness rather than just trying to fix your low back temporarily or fix your neck or your headache temporarily. We're trying to help regain normal function. So really what makes us neurologically based is that we are salutogenic in nature, salud meaning health, salutogenic, generation of health, rather than pathogenic. We're trying to help improve wellness so that the symptoms are no longer coming up as often or there, rather than trying to fix the symptom. Remember the F word. We're not trying to fix the symptom. We're trying to improve the wellness. Salutogenic in nature is ultimately, I think, why we are neurologically based. But Yes, in general, chiropractic really has been neurologically focused. It's just whether or not that's what you're intending to do. Remember the intent. If you're intending to help that, then that's what we're after.
Yeah.
So I guess what we're intending to do in the office is just allow your body the most optimal position to heal. So if you go and you break your arm, for example, the doctor that puts the cast on your arm he's not fixing your arm. What's fixing your arm is the arm being in the most optimal position, which is going to be the cast. So that's going to be very similar to care in our office. So by allowing the body to have appropriate tone, function, and communication, that's where you're going to start to see these other things.
Optimal internal environment is what that's about. That's essentially the cast. Every adjustment, it's creating that better optimal internal environment so that you can better self-heal and better self-regulate. I cannot tell you the amount of people that tell me they have substantially improved sleep, because when they come in, they have all of these problems and they list it out on their intake forms. We get them assessed. They have a subluxation in their cervical spine, probably in their low back. I mean, they've got issues everywhere. We get them adjusted. Now their body is out of that fight or flight state. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Their body is now not perceiving like they're about to be mauled by a bear. So yeah, you're going to get better sleep. Yeah, you're going to wake up feeling rested, and your physiology is going to start to change because you're no longer feeling like you're under attack all the time, always. So if you're considering chiropractic care, if you feel burned out, you feel tense, you're not sleeping well, you're exhausted when you wake up, you have all these things, and I know there's a lot of people that are like, wow, it's like it's because we see this. People need to be adjusted, and they need to be adjusted more than when they hurt. Does that make sense? They need to be adjusted for wellness, not for pain reduction.
Going with other things that people should look out for, right? I'm thinking about your relationship with other people in the healthcare community. And oftentimes, like I know for like my wife and I, we call our tribe of providers, like it's a holistic approach. Like there will be times where I need to go see you for things that I need to do. And then there might be times where I need to go see do a sleep study or something like that. Like, so figuring out who is in, your bullpen of people, right? What are other disciplines that I guess you guys collaborate with? Because I know you guys are so active in our community and you invite other providers from other disciplines to come in, but like, can you explain that relationship with where you're at?
We work with a lot of different types, just kind of depends on the person. So everything is going to be very, like I said, intentionality. So with each person. So we do work with a lot of physical therapists that are going to be specific to that person. So finding a physical therapist that's going to mesh well with that individual and
what's
their
an
specific
example?
need.
Yeah. Like how would you pair a person and a physical therapist?
If a patient's struggling with, balance issues and they have inner ear crystals, there's certain procedures that there are some physical therapists that have a specialty in inner ear conditions. So we'll refer them to them. Or there's some physical therapists that specialize in traumatic whiplash related car accident injuries. So we'll refer for treatment for them if we're also co-managing them. But
pelvic floor too. We take care of a lot of pregnant moms or postpartum. So a lot of pelvic floor. We work with a lot of midwives,
midwives, some OBs, naturopaths we refer out quite a bit to. But I mean, yeah, we try our best. Therapists as well, for the mental component, mental health component.
Behavioral therapy.
Yeah, psychologists as well. So we do our best that if we can't be the one that directly helps that individual, I do know that they're going to function better through chiropractic care, neurologically-based chiropractic care. But if we can't be the one that's going to help them reach resolution with that condition, we're going to find them somebody that will. And again, that just comes back to the intentionality behind it. So, for example, right now I'm looking for a child psychologist. So I've made some calls to help out with some kiddos that are struggling with sensory processing and emotional disturbances. So I've been making some calls to find a really good referral for that. So that's just that's how we try to find ourselves a collaboration or a team around us as well.
Absolutely. Another, I feel like it's not controversial for me and Stephanie anymore. And you guys know this, but like both of our kiddos have seen chiropractors. Like we know, like, can you explain that? Because when people visualize chiropractic care for infants and toddlers, it's like they just picture like necks getting snapped and all that.
YouTube videos is what you're,
You know what I mean? It's like, again, this goes back to like people saying, well, you're not a real doctor. And even if they don't say it to your face, even if they're thinking it, they have these deeply held beliefs, these like things, but like that subject, I just wanted to ask you, I feel like this is a really good opportunity for you to explain like the importance of that. And what is that like?
Yeah. Like I said, we take care of a lot of pregnant women, and we know that birth itself can be very traumatic, not only for the woman, but also for the baby. There can be pulling and twisting and maneuvers involved to try and get the baby out. And that can be very traumatic for their developing cartilage in their cervical spine, as well as their cranial bones. So we find that it's really, really important that newborns get checked as soon as possible and adjusted. Now, it's not the YouTube videos. It's not twisting, cracking, popping. It's very light pressure. And the amount of pressure that is used is actually probably even less than what you would use to check ripeness of fruit at the supermarket. So it's very light pressures, and it's very important because, again, it's about the tone. If we can help that kiddo restore tone, restore balance, we're going to see a great improvement with torticollis, which is tilting or curving of the head. So you see a lot of these kids that have these imbalances where their neck is cricked off to the side. Colicky symptoms because the kiddo is uncomfortable. If you hurt, you say, "Doc, I hurt." If a baby hurts, they cry and they won't stop crying and they keep crying. You've changed their diaper. You've tried to feed them. It's colic. So we see a lot of kiddos that are struggling with colic. Pooping, constipation issues. We see that quite a bit too, that we can see almost immediate resolution if we just check and adjust their sacrum. I mean, you wouldn't believe how
sacrum is a part on the lower.
Sacrum is essentially
back.
the tailbone. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, I just say the tailbone because it makes sense to most people, but it's the bone that holds your pelvis together. But this is why it's so important to us that kids get checked and adjusted as soon as possible, because here's why. If they have these symptoms and these conditions, there are practitioners that when you have a practice, you practice that way. Chiropractors do chiropractic, physical therapy does physical therapy, medical doctors do medicine, surgeons do surgery.
Just stay in their lane.
Which is completely fine. But there may be antibiotics that are prescribed, or there may be other medications that are prescribed, or there may be certain conditions that they're diagnosed with when really they may have just needed to be adjusted. I mean, I'm not trying to say that we treat and cure everything that these kiddos have, but I think it's really important that these kids get checked and adjusted as soon as possible before they grow up with all of these issues and concerns, and they're led to believe that they're unhealthy, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, without going too far into our own kids and their history, this is a podcast, it's public info, but I can just tell you, for me as a father, like, when my wife was talking about, sending our first to a chiropractor, like, I had those reservations, I had those concerns. Mm-hmm. But what really was the kind of watershed or moment that dawned on me was thinking, okay, if I don't look into this, my kiddo's going to continue to grow. The trajectory, I use that word a lot. Like, if you don't correct something, the trajectory, and I know this as a 42-year-old male who's had terrible posture for the last 20 years. A lot of my workouts are trying to go against the bad habits that I've gotten. And I had to realize that, like, if my kid grows with these things, but I didn't correct them, what's the trajectory of going to be that versus actually getting them checked out?
Yeah. And one thing too, we like to talk about is it's way easier to raise healthy kids than it is to fix sick adults. So it's way easier to start when they're younger, because if you fall, and you may feel pain, you may feel bruised, just a little bit uncomfortable, but not enough to, cry essentially about it. But kids, they learn how to walk, they learn how to run, they learn how to fall. They're learning sports, they're learning all those things. Most people don't make their way into chiropractic offices until way later, but it was all of those years of trauma, that those little tiny micro traumas that really add up over time. So when people come into our office and they see their structure, they're like, what caused that? It was everything that led up until this moment.
Was it the car accident I had? And we say, yes, but also the way that you sit at your desk 8 hours a day, 5 days a week for years on end. It's also that too. Sometimes when people do see their films or their exam findings, they're like, whoa, I had no idea, because it didn't even hurt that bad. We say your structure really needs some help, So we have a saying that, ultimately, as the twig bends, so grows the rest of the tree. So that trajectory that you talked about, I want to share an example and a testimonial again. We had, how old was we'll just use initials for patient privacy. She 13, 14, probably 14. Yeah. So this teenager comes to us. She's 14 years old. Her dad came in for back pain probably a year prior, and we explained the neurologically-based approach. And he said, "Do you think this can help my daughter with ears?" And my answer to this question for a lot of things is, we'll see. Let's see how she responds.
Help my daughter with what again?
Her ears.
Her ears.
Ear
Got
pain.
it. Okay.
So like ear infections and stuffiness in the ears
Right.
and sinus issues. He brings her in. We examined her upper cervical spine and it was a mess. Her top bone in her spine, this is called the atlas. That's your C1 vertebrae. This is the bone that's at the top of your spine that articulates with your skull. And it was subluxated so severely that even the parents could feel where her bone was sticking out, almost like it was sticking out of the side of her neck. So that creates a tremendous amount of pressure on what's considered the brain stem and ultimately the nerves that go to the inner ear as well. So usually what we're looking at there is the trigeminal nerve is affecting the eustachian tube. And when that happens, it won't open correctly. We got
What
her
does the
adjusted.
eustachian tube
Eustachian
do?
tube is
stem?
essentially it's in the inner ear, and if
Okay.
it doesn't function correctly, it may not open up and allow for drainage to take
Okay.
place. So this is where we have
So we're
like the
seeing a lot of
stuffy
kids
ear.
with ear infections.
Or
Roger that.
what I usually say is it's on the air, like when you're on an airplane and you feel that like pressure and it won't let go.
Got it.
And then all of a sudden you chew some gum that helps open up the eustachian tube.
Right.
So basically we found that she had this issue, this problem. It was very serious. And she had this for a very long time to where she hated flying and avoided flying on a plane because it caused too much pain in her ear. We adjust her. It must have been 2 or 3 adjustments and the pain was gone. It's gone. Her ear pain is gone. She's doing much better with the ear. And the saddest thing that I ever heard was she said, I thought that everyone just had this because that was normal to her. I thought that everyone had this type of ear pain. So she got 2 adjustments at 14 years old and she'd been dealing with this for maybe her whole life.
Chronic pain kills so many dreams.
Mhm.
I know that sounds like super dramatic, but I mean, it literally affects. You talk about bending the twig, so goes the tree, mind, future, relationships, identity. Man, that's huge.
Yeah. Can I tie a happy bow on it?
Please.
Yeah.
These are tears of joy because it has a good ending. I know it has a good ending, but
since then she's flown 4 times. She's gone to like Pasadena for like the flower parade or whatever.
Rose Bowl or
something
Rose
like
Parade.
that.
Yeah.
She's traveled
Like
down to
taking
Florida.
family trips.
Yeah, they're doing family. She's hopping on planes and it's like no big deal at all. People don't have any idea how much better their body can function at an optimal level through neurologically focused chiropractic care, but ultimately the life experience that they have. Being able to go and do what you need to do because your body will allow you to do so, it's priceless.
I mean, just last week we had somebody who literally just got started with care, already experiencing improvements with tinnitus. And I mean,
That's the
how that's
constant ringing in the air.
Yeah.
That's-
Constant
I got
buzz,
a lot
constant
of
hum.
veteran buddies that have that.
Yeah.
Well, and just think
combat
about,
and-
removing something like that or even reducing it, how much that's going to affect your life. Not only just you personally, mentally being able to relax, but also being able to have more intentional conversations, feeling like you can listen more, just being more intentional with your day-to-day life.
So how did the tinnitus like work out for that person? Because like I know a lot of people who have tinnitus, like all my old metal band buddies too, like my tour buddies, like just loud stuff. I mean, how do you work tinnitus out? Or
just again allowing the nervous system to function better.
Very similar to that last testimonial: upper cervical spine, occiput, atlas, C2, your axis. Checking that, making correct adjustments, correct alignment, take that pressure off of the brainstem. In this particular nerve, we're talking about the vestibulocochlear nerve, which is your 8th cranial nerve, where it can be perceiving stimulus that isn't actually there. So it's perceiving a sound. So listeners right now, you're hearing from the mechanical airwaves, it's hitting your inner ear and that's being processed in your brain. So essentially what's happening in the case of tinnitus is the buzzing isn't actually there. So their brain is perceiving a stimulus that is not really there. So it's a nerve thing.
We don't have video on this podcast yet, but I'm sitting here like blown away. My mind is blown by that. So the nerve can tell the brain that there's a buzzing.
Everything happens in your brain.
The ear is not receiving a buzzing.
It's a false stimulus essentially. The nerves are being inappropriately stimulated. Yeah. our brain processes billions of bits of information even every single second. Some neuroscientists have said that it can be close to 41 billion bits of information every single second. So everything happens in your brain. And as a chiropractor, your brain has an extension, and that extension is called the brainstem and the spinal cord, and it's protected by the spinal bones. You have to have appropriate alignment and health of the spine in order for that very intimate relationship to take place at a very high level every day. So if we can help remove some of the disruption, some of that interference, remove that interference, we can help the body better function, better move, better heal, and the brain can then do that 41 billion bits of information every second at a potentially higher level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. We've talked a lot about some of the awesome outcomes that have happened. We know that not everybody has the same journey, right? Mm-hmm. So, oh my gosh, if you can have 2 adjustments and then your ear infections are gone, that's amazing. But you guys, you have what's called wellness care. Can you talk to us about that? Because that's where you're getting more into day-to-day habits. And I know you and I, Zach, we talked about kits that you'll give to people to do exercises and stretches at home. But what does wellness care look like with Vita?
I want to maybe talk about it from like a different realm. So like if you're working really hard at the gym because you want to get to a certain place, you're working really hard. It takes a lot more effort in the beginning to get to essentially what you want to look like, what you want to feel like. And if you just stop, what do you think is going to happen? You could probably maintain it for a while, but you're going to continue to do your day-to-day life. You're going to eat things. You're going to, you're going to have celebrations. You're going to have things that are going to, kind of fall off a little bit. But if you don't continue to do the things that got you to where you're at, it's just going to go back eventually. And that's really similar because your day-to-day life isn't going to stop. You're not going to be in an anti-gravity chamber. You're
Which
going to
would take all the pressure off your spine. That's why you say that, right?
Yeah. So
oh my gosh.
You're still going to work.
Bubbles. No, it'd be like Wall-E. All the people in Wall-E, their bones just eventually got like super small.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. So, ultimately what we say in our office, people get adjusted for 2 reasons, and really it's 2 reasons only. It's to get better and it's to stay better. We provide plans for individuals. If they come in with a backache or they come in with this condition or this concern, we're going to do a very thorough examination to determine exactly what they have so we can give them exactly what they need, what their structure needs. At that point, we'll help correct the condition or manage the condition to get better. And then at that point, we can provide them with wellness care. So if they want to stay better, that's what that consists of. That's usually where they continue to do their stretches and they do their rehab. Usually they're not checked and adjusted as often at that point in time because their nervous system's functioning more correctly, their structure's healthier, their posture's better. That's ultimately what wellness care is. So we know that everything has an expectation and an agreement. When they get better, we need them to understand if you stay up on it, you're going to continue to have great results. If you don't stay up on it, odds are your stress bucket's going to get filled again and the condition is probably going to return. As long as they understand that and that's what they choose to do, that's totally fine. But that's what wellness care is, and that's why wellness care is so incredibly important. Yeah.
So wellness care is continuous, right? And I guess, what does that look like? What does the journey look like? Like if, and maybe you can just give an example, like you have patients that have been on wellness care for how long? And what
first
are you
opened
since our first
since
week
you first opened, and so
4 years now.
They come in like once a month, every other month. Does it just depend on what they need? Like
a lot of life happens in 7 days. Most people that come to us, they're getting checked and adjusted probably weekly to every other week. There's some individuals in some cases where we may see them every 30 days or so, but a lot of life happens in between the visits. So it's all about helping them stay on top. And ultimately what wellness care is it's proactive at that point in time. It's just being proactive with the problems and the conditions and the concerns to where we can help them reach cruising altitude. We say that every care plan is kind of like a plane that's taken off. There's a lot of checks and balances and procedures and all these things, checking the safety belts, doing the announcements. It's a lot of work on the front end. And then when we get to cruising altitude, some people may say that like it's a negative thing, like, oh, I've plateaued, I'm not getting any better. Well, how much better can you get at this point? You're optimal. Stay optimal. We call it cruising altitude. So sometimes if people reach this level of wellness where they're like happy with it and they're like, you know what, I'm going to just like stop doing the behaviors and the habits and the adjustments and all this stuff that got me here. That's almost like hopping on a plane from here. We're in Kansas City and then like getting off at Columbia. Missouri. That's like just a couple hours. It's just like, it's a lot of energy and effort. And now we got to pick the plane up again. So we call it the ebb and the flow.
That's a really good
Get at
example.
cruising altitude and just stay there. And if you get off pace, it's easy to get back on pace. So ultimately, wellness care is as long as a person wants to maintain their wellness as they continue to go to work and be a parent and do all these traumatic things that they do to their body. So you asked about once a month. I want to touch on that. That's a question that we're commonly asked is like, well, what about like once a month? Do you know where the once a month thing came from?
No, hit me.
Do you know where it came from?
Drop it, brother.
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah, I do. I'll let him go.
It comes from insurance, really. So
We're going
ultimately, a lot of insurance plans, health insurance plans, they have 12 visits per calendar year. So that comes out
chiropractic visits.
Like chiropractic. I mean, there's a whole bunch of like things to it, but ultimately it comes out to 12 visits per calendar year. So then, I'll just do once a month for my insurance visits. We have basically 4 scenarios in the office. We're always going to give the patient what they need, not necessarily what the patient has in terms of insurance coverage, not necessarily what the patient can or cannot afford. We're going to give them not what the patient can or cannot afford. If the patient lives across the street or lives in St. Joseph, Missouri, they still need a standard of care. So we're going to give the patient what they need, not necessarily always what the insurance cover. We cover all of that on the front end, but you get the idea. So that's ultimately where the once a month thing comes from. In my opinion, that is not enough care for most people. That's 30 days of between your visits. You're going to come in and something's going to bother you every month until that problem 5 or 6 months later.
A lot of life happens
problem.
in 7 days.
Yes.
Times 4, right?
4 or 5.
A day times 31. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we call it the stress bucket. There's 3 faucets that fill up your stress bucket. We have a visual that we use in the office. It's emotional stress, chemical stress, and physical stress. And it's going to keep filling up your bucket. You can't stop it, but you can turn the faucets down. But getting adjusted is metaphorically opening up a hole in the bottom of that bucket so that you can empty out your stress bucket and not have symptoms overrun. So if we did do like every month or every couple months or quote unquote, whenever I need it, doc, your bucket's going to overflow and it's already overflowing at that point. So it's ultimately about keeping that stress bucket empty as you continue to have emotional stressors that may take place. Some of the foods that you may be eating may be contributing to more inflammation, as well as physical movements, sitting, posture, things like that.
Right.
That all makes sense?
It does for sure. And you mentioned the insurance thing. So you guys, do you take patients with insurance? Like, and what does that dynamic look like running a chiropractic office, cause it depends on the practitioner you speak with, but there's some folks like they've gone to direct pay only.
Right.
Or like they'll do Medicare or they won't do Medicare, but like what's that whole can of worms?
I'll let you touch on it from like the administrative side, and then I'll touch on it clinically.
Yeah.
I love it.
Administrative side, we accept it because people have it and people want to use it. That's why we accept it. I mean, it's helpful for people and that's great. And we want to be able to utilize that for people, but that's the only reason.
Administratively, what is that? What's the lift?
So we have to check specifically what their coverage looks like. So it's most people think, oh, well, I should have coverage for that. Well, yes, you probably do, but that's going to take into effect based on what the doctors are finding, what your specific structure looks like, what your medical necessity need is. And that's going to be based on persons or based on each individual rather. So it's totally different, but a lot of times insurance is cookie cutter, but each individual is different. So trying to make sure that we set up their plan that is going to be based on them, not just a cookie cutter insurance plan that they have signed up for.
Before you go into the clinical piece, I want to ask, what has that been like for you? Like figuring out all the different types of insurance plans and I know you'll touch on the clinical stuff, what insurance will honor, but what has that been like for you administratively?
Well, it can be fun, but also not very fun because, at the end of the day, insurance is essentially going to approve what they want to approve.
Exactly.
Whether or not whether or not someone on the phone tells us this is what's going to be approved. At the end of the day, once we receive the explanation of benefit, that's what the insurance has deemed as what they're going to cover. So, it can be frustrating because, if we're told something and then we tell a patient something and then it's different, then that honestly sucks for us because we then have to tell them, hey, this is doing something different than we had initially expected. So we do have a great billing team and they help us with all of that. So it's just more frustrating when it doesn't go the way that you want it to, which doesn't happen very often, but it still can.
I think everybody listening, most folks that have lived some life know what it's like to get like a pre-authorization and then be told insurance isn't going to cover as much of this as you thought it was, or even the provider did. So but Zach, like on the clinical piece with insurance.
Yep. So in terms of health insurance, to be completely honest and as blunt and bold as possible, I literally do not care if a person has insurance or does not, or how many visits they have. I don't even know that when we're examining them. When I look at their exam findings, their health intake forms, their x-rays, if we took them, anything that we gathered on their visit, it makes no difference to me. We're going to give the person what that person needs. If insurance just so happens to help out, Meagan and the team, they're fantastic at that. They're going to use the diagnosis codes that we have. They're going to use the CPT codes. A CPT code is a treatment code. Essentially, insurance takes these codes, and that's how your visits get processed. So the doctors in our office, it doesn't matter to us if they have insurance or not, because it shouldn't matter. A person comes in, if they don't have insurance, or they do have insurance, or their insurance isn't it doesn't matter. They need care. They need to get better. So we don't want people to let insurance dictate or drive their care, because if that happens, insurance is their doctor. I'm not their doctor anymore.
And one word that you didn't say, incentivize. Right. And that's one of the biggest things when you go down the documentary wormhole about healthcare and all the things that we've learned. Like, I just hearing you say that when you started it off, I knew it was going to be good, because you said, I'm going to be as blunt as possible. I love when people do that, the line in the sand.
Yeah.
I don't want to see their insurance. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't know. That's not the concern, is their wellness, their health.
Yeah.
And so you go in and that's what you're looking at.
Right. And we, as the clinicians, the doctors of chiropractic, we do want to separate, because you don't ever want to create a conflict of interest. If a patient has great insurance, let's do these services that maybe they don't need. And there's some offices that may do a bunch of treatments to a patient just so that they can rack up an insurance CPT code on them. So in a sense, it doesn't matter. We just keep it simple, give the person what they need, examine them, get the patient better. And if the team finds that you have benefits that'll help out, great. That's awesome. I'm happy for you that you have that, but we're still going to give you what you need.
Right. On the subject of kind of expanding your team, what's your growth going to look like in 2024? Or, whatever you're comfortable with sharing, right? Because there's obviously things like, that are in development. You've got visions. I know you've probably got people you probably have a list of people you'd love to add to the business, right? Like, you guys are making waves in this area, but like, what does your next 6 months or next year look like? What are you working on?
Well,
I know what you're going to say.
Well, first things, we're due in either late April or May, so that's going to slow things down a little bit. But,
second kiddo.
After that, I would say probably just pick up speed again and try to take that time a little bit to slow down. I think as business owners, you want to always grow and always expand and do those things, but also making sure that you also still take time when it is needed too. So, but we do have future plans. I guess I can let you.
Yeah. We're looking at probably 20% growth this year, 2024, which is great. But again, if you're a business owner listening to this portion right now, you have to bring value to your community. And our scaling, the reason we want to scale is one of my big fears and my big concerns is I never want a person that's having a really bad migraine that day to call my office and our team say, we don't have room for you on our books today. You have to continue to scale your services and your product and your company so that your services can reach more people and make their lives better. So in terms of what can we expect in the next 6 months, we're looking for someone to come on for marketing, to just solely do marketing. We're looking for somebody to come on to help out with the front desk. We want a professional front desk person to come in and just always be that like face of the office, and then from there we have a bunch of other roles that we're looking to hire, but those are probably our two big ones right now, is a marketing person to get our message out to the community. Our community is so sick. They're overprescribed, in my opinion. They need help, and they need to have the chiropractic message delivered to them. ADIO, they need that.
Yeah, something that I think I've really another on the list of several reasons why you're here is because when people go to your office, they check in and they're not waiting an hour to be seen. I've talked to you about this. Like, I think I asked you while I was there for our first meetup, how long are you guys staying after hours to take care of people and all that? Like, you guys have a system. How do you do it? How is it that you get people? They come in and you've got a layout. You've got, it's like your flow. I call that flow, right? Like in lean, it's you have patient flow.
You want to touch on the flow, or do you want me to?
Well, I think the flow, it's going to start with front desk organization. So it's just going to be checking in. It's our system that we have for checking in. So as soon as you check yourself in, as soon as a room's available, our system will actually tell you where to go. We'll also tell you where to go, but you know specifically how to get checked in. You know exactly where to go. And that's all something that we cover with you on the front end so that you feel completely comfortable. You feel like our space is your space. Like if you bring a friend over, you can just get in the fridge because you're comfortable there. Like if you come in on a regular basis, you just come in, get your adjustment, and then maybe you leave with a coffee because that's something everybody likes to do at our office too.
Maybe you sit there and pet Arlo for a bit.
Yeah, maybe you pet the dog, maybe you read a magazine, maybe you hang out a little bit, but you're in and out for your specific care because time is the most precious aspect. So if we can respect your time, make care easy for you. If you want to take extra time and you want to hang out with us up front, that's great too. But we're there to make care easy and convenient for you to get in, get out, and get better.
Yeah. We kind of have this vision of we want to be kind of like the Chick-fil-A of chiropractic care, where we know that time, money, and health, 3 assets, right? Your health is extremely important and your time is very important too. So in my opinion, your time, your life experience that you have at that time is extremely important. You don't need to spend an hour in a doctor's office every time you're going. We want to be able to get them their treatment, answer any questions that they have, give them any new stretches, and get them, ideally, our goal is door to door in 15 to 20 minutes or less. Front door, check in, get your adjustment, and front door again in 15 to 20 minutes. Make it easy as possible so that they can get the care that they need, top-notch, excellent care, and get on with their life and their responsibilities, because that's why they're getting adjusted. They're not getting adjusted to talk to us about football games and the garden, and they have to come in, get adjusted, and get back to your life. Do what you need to do what you love doing.
Yeah. You guys don't have a TV in the waiting room either.
We do.
Oh, you do?
It's just usually educational.
Or educational, yeah.
It's usually educational.
That's the other thing. It's a part of the aesthetic. Like, because I know, like, if you walk into, I won't name the places, but like some of the doctor's offices, it's like they've got, the news on and all this, and they got the magazines, and it's like, this, like the waiting room is literally a room devoted to waste. Right. Waiting is waste. In a clinic. Yeah. And we create rooms to galvanize our commitment to waste.
Right. Right. The way that we see the waiting room is that's like the experience part of it. I mean, people will comment on our coffee and they're like, this is the best coffee. And there's nothing special about it, but
it's in there.
It's just it must be the experience or like I don't know, but they're like, man, that coffee was good. And we want the waiting room to be the experience part of it. And the team at the front desk, hey, here's a handout on blood pressure today, or here's a handout on how to have better cardiovascular health. They're doing a great job at that. So it's always something valuable. Even while you're waiting, you're getting something out of it.
It's a vibe. Your place is a vibe, like seriously. And I know you've got plans to grow, and just seeing that your office right now, it's been like almost like a laboratory for you to test things, like what's working, what can improve, to scale that. I mean, it's so exciting. Yeah. So exciting.
And another part on the reception room is we have a healing bell now. It's a bell that people can ring when they have a breakthrough, or when they had a great adjustment, or when they just, had something to celebrate. Like, for example, that woman the other day with her tinnitus. I mean, it's fun because when we're like pumping out adjustments and we're moving and we hear that bell ringing, it almost sounds like a seaport with like all the bells, and it's crazy to hear because we know that that's an audible feedback of someone's healing and someone's getting better, and everybody in the office hears that. They're like, oh, that's healing. We know that person's healing.
We want to know why too. I mean, a lot of people want to know like, oh, well, what was their breakthrough? And just somebody the other day was like, I can breathe better after my adjustment. Yep. So just being able to improve quality of life, but then also to hear it in a different realm. That's just someone telling you.
So cool. Yeah. I have so enjoyed this conversation today. Is there anything that we didn't cover or talk about that, through this conversation, you're like, gosh, I'd love to tell people about this? Anything else you can think of?
Just your body has unremarkable healing potential that God has given us. In my opinion, if we just nurture our body, I feel like God's given us everything that we need to heal. Everything we need, it should already be inside of us. So just nurture that idea and take care of your body so that you can have the best possible life experience.
Gosh, I feel like that pretty well covers everything.
Yeah.
Just really find somebody who's going to be an advocate for you. So if you're looking for somebody, try to find somebody who wants the best for you, not just, just a quick kind of thing.
Absolutely. So we'll put all your links in the show notes, but if you could just maybe tell folks how to find you, what's the best way to engage with Vita Chiropractic?
Sure. We're on Facebook. Do you know what our Facebook name is?
Yeah, it's Vita Chiro is Facebook. Instagram, you'd find us Vita Chiro KC. It just a little bit different.
We're always putting out organic content, health tips, free value adds to the community, stretches, nutrition tips, things like that. So follow us and see if you can take something from that. We also have a nutrition line that we've created that's USDA organic products that are from sustainably regenerative farmed communities in Missouri and Tennessee. So we've got some great products as well on at vitavitalitywellness.com. So if you want to explore that, we've got some great products there too. But that's how you can find us. So
I love it. It has been so cool having you on the show. Thank you everybody for listening to this episode. Again, support Meagan and Zach at Vita. And again, we appreciate you following them on social media, following us, subscribing, rating, and reviewing the show helps us continue to grow. Thank you so much.